They're all wearing Little House on the Prairie ass dresses, and they're standing in cornfields just watching them.
This is not crime. This is shenanigans at best.
Again, it's like 50 Shades of Blonde.
The diversity of the Buttercream Gang. Blonde, brunette, and Italian. Welcome to Talking to Tomatoes, the podcast where we analyze the fundamentalist Christians media we grew up with, not just for its quality, but for the pernicious propaganda behind it. I am your president of the Buttercream Gang, Eric Eberly.
And I'm your resident butter churner, Jubilee Alexander.
We've got a fun one. I'm so excited
do
about this.
we ever? Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick, the most preliminary of history, because we have discovered a new and juicy vein. So in the 80s, a man whose name I can't be bothered to look up right now, I'm sure we'll get to it in a more deeper dive episode, founded a media company in Utah to promote and produce this, media with good Christian values. Just not good, specifically not good Christian values. It's like good moral lessons and stuff in media. Proceeded to, for the next 30, 40 years, to produce some really bad movies with vaguely family friendly. They were explicitly family friendly. Like, that's the whole point. And they were also very aggressively marketed over the phone, culminating in several lawsuits against the company, including them violating the Do Not Call Act in Missouri, where they had to pay $700,000, and being fined by the FCC for over 100 million illegal phone calls to the tune of $45 million. This company is Feature Films for Families, and they are the company that produced the movie that we are looking at today, called The Buttercream Gang. This was a movie that we owned when we were, I don't know, probably about the same age as the kids in the movies, like 10, 11 years old. And we just watched incessantly, and we had it on VHS. It came to our house, and we were like it was very funny in my research for this. I don't know if you have these sort of memories, but I remember our parents talking about this company and sort of being like, well, it's not exactly like aligned with our specific brand of Christianity, but it's not explicitly Mormon either, even though the founder was Mormon and it's based in out of Utah, Salt Lake City, and all this stuff.
Sure.
But I remember being told this, and in my sort of research for this episode, I was sort of wondering how much of that is true. And it was like, no, they're pretty much exactly what
I nailed it.
Yeah, they weren't simplifying things. They were just like, yeah, it's a company that makes movies for like kids, not even exactly completely kids media, but they make a lot of media that is very, there's like no cursing and no sexual content. And
You just blew my mind for a second, actually, because I was sitting there going like, oh my God, there are people that don't like watching PG-13 movies. And genuinely not to honestly, some of that could be like sex repulsed people or something, but I was just thinking of you saying, I'm like, of course it's kids movies. And I was like, oh, I guess G-rated, family-friendly, vaguely Judeo-Christian values stuff isn't necessarily kids media. I'm like, oh my God, there's some boring people out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably another thing that we look into. There's a little bit of an aside. The nonprofit that Feature Films for Families partnered with, and they got sued in Missouri over it, is something called the Dove Foundation, and those are one of those Christian media review things, so that when when the kids come home and go, we want to watch Toy Story or whatever, and then they go and look it up and they go, it's not just is it rated G or PG, but how does it score in these specific categories. And there was what kind of what you were saying. There's a very funny thing where I was reading, I think, the Wikipedia article about it, and it was saying how it breaks it down from like 0 to 5 on all of these categories, and it's like it can't receive, uh, our approval if it has more than like a 2 in all of these categories, unless it also has like a high, like faith-based values or like faith-based content. So it's like, yeah, they can't be a violent movie unless it's the Passion of the Christ or whatever. And it's like, well, it's a story about Jesus being killed in one of the most brutal fashions imaginable. So yeah, there's some violent content, but it's like to serve something else. But yeah.
I have a kind of slowly working theory where I think World Magazine and their media reviews where they're like, Esmeralda's juicy thighs are too sexy for your children to watch was probably the first media criticism that any of us really encountered, where we're like, we're not just like, is there blood? We're like, yes, and she's like demonic and something, which is not what the fucking story is about, but
Oh God.
bad
It
criticism is part of the criticism pot.
I was just sitting here like I think you're right. I think you're right. I mean, the closest other thing might have been like, oh, there was that Christian stand-up guy who did like parody songs. Mark
I literally just watched a video
Lowry?
about them.
Mark Lowry?
Lowry.
Yeah,
Mark
Mark
Lowry.
Lowry, yeah. Anyway.
Because I was sitting there, the reason that it blew my mind, I was sitting there, I'm like, why is this name, why is the other, they were talking about the two big guys in the 80s were Mark Lowry and Mike Warnke. And I was like, why is that name so familiar? He's the guy who like started the Satanic Panic and he made the whole thing up. He wrote this autobiography that's like, and then I became an, like, it's a book where he was trying to make himself sound cool by being like, I did so many drugs. I had all this sex. And people, like, his friends were like, he's making that up. He was a dork ass loser in college. And he flunked out after one semester. And he talks about becoming like a high priest for Satan. And then he became a Christian stand up comic in the 80s.
Boy, Christian stand-up comedy. That okay. Again, another ADHD aside here. It is almost frustrating how, in the process of doing this podcast, I keep like there's this always a small part about going like, boy, they can't be making that many episodes of Odyssey if they even are making them anymore. We're eventually going to run out of content. What are we going to do? No, we're not. No, we're not. We every time we get to one thing, it's like a chain reaction, and then I go, oh my gosh, and do you remember the Thief in the Night videos that we saw that traumatized us about the rapture?
Oh my God.
Right. I was looking them up because I actually thought they were called the Left Behind, because I was thinking, ooh, we can like
Are
blow
they not?
people's.
What are they called? Are they called Thief in the Night?
They're called the Thief in the Night.
Whoa.
And
You could have
anyway,
sworn those were called Left Behind too.
yeah, because I was like, hey, we're gonna do something about the Left Behind, not the ones you think, the ones from the '70s. Oh, you didn't know they were from the '70s, and then we talk about that. Anyway, the Buttercream.
Anyway, let's talk about a movie about a gang of goody two shoes in Elk Ridge? Question mark. For some reason, I think it's Indiana.
But yeah.
I mean, I googled it and like there's one in like every state. So, but it's relatively close to Chicago because that's part of the story.
Yeah, he take that. Well, anyway, Jubilee, give us a rundown of the plot of the Buttercream Gang.
So we start in Elk Ridge, Mystery Mormon State, and there are four boys: Pete, Scott, Lenny, and Eldon. Pete is the most Italian boy on the face of the planet, and genuinely puts this movie on his back. I loved this kid. But we open with this kid is walking to a treehouse, and you see all of his friends hiding in the treehouse. And his friends are Scott, Lenny, and Eldon. But this movie is mostly about Pete and Scott. Pete is the president of the Buttercream Gang, and these four boys are the members. And Pete is moving to Chicago. We know that because they're holding up several probably not authorized pieces of Chicago sports team merch. because there's a Bears and a Cubs thing, and then later at the bus he pulls out a White Sox thing, and I'm like, yep, that's the three teams. Good job.
Yep, there we go.
This is probably pre Blackhawks. I was surprised they weren't there. I don't know when the Blackhawks went there, or if Mormons believe in hockey. Who knows? There was also I should have gone over my notes for a second because there was a random thing where Pete's leaving and they're sad because he's the president of their club, and
he's going to help his aunt. Like his aunt is a single
yes,
mom, and theoretically, part of their whole shtick is being helpful. And he's like, well, here's the ultimate helpful thing. I'm going to move in with my aunt and help with her kids.
there was a random thing out of the blue where I think he like does, as he's about to leave, he like does finger guns to everyone, and Scott randomly does a hat flick thing that was like something that like fascists were doing like 3 or 4 years ago on TikTok, and it was really weird to see because I was just like, oh my god, and I'm like, wait, the movie was probably shot in like 1989 or 91 or something, and I'm like, okay, it's pre that, it's cool. So yeah, he's leaving, and they elect Scott as the new president, and yeah, they're all. It's deeply homoerotic and delightful. And again, like I do have to emphasize, this is a very bad movie. Like it's very low quality. There's lots of moments where you see a child standing there, and then they start moving, and you're like, it's the editor's job to edit around bad child actors. But they're
Yeah.
like, look, I mean, I am talking about little kids. Scott is an okay. The kid who plays Scott is an okay actor. Lenny and Eldon are the most forgettable thumbs of dudes, which is funny because I remember there's a second movie that I liked, and Eldon is like the main character of that one. And he gets better, and he gets more charismatic. Scott's an okay actor. This guy, Michael D. Weatherred, again, puts the
Is,
movie on his
I
back
was gonna say
because
that
he's
that's
like,
the actor who played Pete.
yeah, the kid who plays Pete, the guy who's leaving, is like, I mean, he's like reacting to other things people are, like, because most people are sitting there waiting to say their lines, like you do when you're
Yeah.
12-year-old in a movie. But he's like reacting, he's ad-libbing, he's very handsy in an Italian way. Again, there's a lot of like
Hey,
smacking
hey,
people
hey,
gently on the
hey.
face. He does a lot,
Yeah.
like he grabs people like this a lot, and it's delightful. And he also went on to he worked for like another 15 years. He was in Mulholland Drive, not as a main character, but
Oh.
he was in a bunch of TV in the 90s and early 2000s, and kind of capped out with Mulholland Drive in 2001. We're gonna take another quick aside to da 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 violations of federal law in Christian movie, which is your girl is a school bus driver, and after Pete leaves, they do this long montage of all these anachronistic shots of this town where it seems like the 50 it's not the 80s. Like nothing about this town, weirdly, it doesn't even look that like it was that long ago, because honestly some of the fashions are starting to come back, and like it's
Yeah.
an out of focus older movie, but it's so weird because like every car you see is like a 50s car.
When the dad comes home from work and stuff, I was literally distracted for like 30 seconds because I'm like, what is he driving? It looks like, those old kind of bulbous Chevy like trucks, but like with the bed completely removed to make it easier to, like, I don't know, throw lumber across or something. And I'm like, what does
Oh
this
yeah.
what is going on with this truck that's parked in what feels like a very 90s like home driveway and stuff, just a big old
Yeah, because
pad
like
of concrete, so much grass, like no landscaping, just grass.
yeah, endless grass. I'm pretty sure the house that they break into and the house that they're constantly showing big shots of are the same house. Just one of them is done from the side, because I'm like, this is an identical looking brick building with the same white trim and white windows, and it's weirdly very narrow. Like you don't see them walk up to the front of it. They just kind of appear at the side and are trying to climbing up to
Yeah,
go help someone.
I think they got access to this one big kind of craftsman-y looking house with a wraparound deck, because then you can you shoot from one side, so you're only getting the corner, a sort of a side entrance onto the deck for someone else's house. But yeah, there are several there. I noticed that too.
So like we're again there it's this weird town. It seems to be I'm like trying to think the coach of the basketball team,
Baseball.
Pete's aunt, the mom, the dad, did I say basketball?
Yeah.
Baseball. Are the only people that are not like 1,000 years old. All of the men in that are there all the people they're helping are old ladies and there's lots of old men around town and tons of little blonde children. It's
This
it's
movie is so blonde.
It's giving Pete Hegseth's nation, ethno state.
As a blonde actor, I have often commented on the well, like I'll read a breakdown for a role, and I was like, well, okay, I know this what this character is going to be. They don't want a blonde man for this role, and this movie freaked me out because it was so blonde. Like Eldon literally for a second I was like, I wonder what his
Yeah, he's like
ethnicity is.
14 and he's toe-headed. It's crazy.
Yeah, his Eldon's hair made me wonder if it was actually dyed.
That might be
But
bleached. Lenny's got kind of like dark blonde. Again, it's like 50 Shades of Blonde.
50
Again,
Shades of
Porter's borderline ethnic as an Italian. He's probably the most ethnic person in
the
this little
diversity of the
clan town.
Buttercream game. Blonde, brunette, and Italian. Um, all right, so what the hell happens to Pete?
Hold on. There's a violation of federal law that I
Oh,
saw
right.
in the opening credits,
Oh my
which
god, we're
is I'm a
23
school
minutes
bus
in.
driver. I know we were it was like 3.5 minutes. I'm watching a violation of federal law because I even checked. It's not marked exempt, and that is a school bus. The school bus is just shown just cruising across tracks. Stand by. Oh, I thought I wrote down this. Oh, but school buses have been required to stop at train tracks since 1938, when 27 children were killed in a collision with a train.
Oh my god.
I was just sitting there like I was like maybe that's like a federal thing that happened in 1998 or something. No, 1938, and with like it is a pan up shot. You just like this bus is already over the tracks and it's going too fast to have stopped and then rolled across the tracks.
Yeah, unless it's a freaking drag engine bus, it's not. It's not going
Yeah,
stopping from
exactly.
15 feet back and hitting 30 miles an hour before it crosses the tracks.
So we see life moving on in Elk Ridge without Pete, and we see Pete living in what looks like row housing in Chicago. As someone who's also been to Chicago, I don't know where the fuck that's supposed to be, and the answer's almost definitely not actually Chicago.
They found the tallest
Um,
building they could, so they could have this fun crane shot of him having a conversation while he goes up like to like the third floor or something while he's
oh
talking
yeah,
to
they're
his
like
aunt.
in the back alley or something. Yeah, it's three whole story. And so you see Scott and Pete exchanging letters, love letters, let's be real. And there's also a disgusting scene where Scott walks in, lays down on his bed in coat, hat, jacket, shoe, just flops down on top of his bed. And I'm just like, I can't.
Also, kind of a weird moment because literally, I hadn't it hadn't happened yet. He walks in from doing his paper route in like the snow. He's like in snow gear. And his mom goes, "Hey, don't put your things on the bed." And he goes, "Okay, mom." And then he goes and just lays down in bed, like in bed. Like like what are we teaching here?
Don't put your stuff on the bed. Just throw it on the ground like a man.
Who knows?
The mom also was. I didn't write this down, but I remember like she had like three lines and they were all really bad. Like, hey Scott, you got a letter from Lenny, or you got a letter from Pete. Do not put your things on the bed. Walks out of the scene. It's like, all
Yeah,
right.
they got to set that day and was like, shit. We were supposed to write lines for this. Like literally the your anyone's first dialogue pass ever. Absolutely no characterization, just in service to move the plot along. To be like, hey, you got a letter from Pete. But what happens to Pete in Chicago?
So Pete starts hanging out. He's doing his thing, and then he randomly says, I joined a street gang called. I don't think he calls it a street gang at that point. I made friends with some local boys, and they're part of they do use the word gang because
I
again
think,
they've kind of
yeah.
they've kind of taken the power out of the word by like the Buttercream Gang, and I almost wonder if the thing was supposed to be. I almost expected him to say something about he's like, whoa, this gang's pretty different. But he joins the street gang, which contains zero people of color. Again, leading this to continue to be a very white movie. Like I kept double checking. The gang calls themselves the Blades, but they should have called themselves the Hats because there were three different hats in the opening scene and at least two more in the next. And at a certain point, they even had bandanas under the hats. It's it's so wild. Like Pete, when he fully morphs into a gang member, he is wearing a red bandana, a white T-shirt with a yellow short sleeve dress shirt where only the top button is buttoned, khaki slacks, a black belt pulled way the hell up. It's the most I don't know what kind of shoes he was wearing. It's the most insane. Like I'm sorry, any gang in Chicago, any gang in the poor places of Chicago that you're trying to depict in this movie. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
mind. I'm like, how is no one wearing cool shoes or anything or
Yeah,
like
I don't even
I don't
think
know. It
anyone
was
was wearing sneakers.
yeah, they're all wearing like brown and black shoes.
This is this is like a defunct company, so the full movie is available on YouTube. It's that big, and it came out in 1992 or something.
92, yeah.
So yeah, it is a poor quality movie. Also, like expressing the whole they're not really in Chicago. There's one scene at night where Pete is like trying to figure out where his friends are, and you hear glass break, and it implies that some crime has happened because breaking glass is apparently the worst crime. Uh,
Breaking glass and an alarm goes off.
yeah, yeah, and there it's a very much an alley that feel it's like brick building on one side, but then the scene where he has like gone fully gangster and he's been expelled from school and all of that, and he's now getting shipped back to Elk Ridge. That he comes up and his aunt is sitting there and she's like, "I've got a letter from your school," and then the reverse shot of Pete and his gang, they like I'm it's like that's a barn. That is a like the space between
I
everything
didn't notice that.
is so big. I'm like again, it's a tall building with a staircase kind of on the back. Everything feels a little tight. I can buy that Chicago, not the reverse shot. I'm like that is not a sidewalk. That is a driveway. That like it's so everything's so far apart. So yeah, so Pete gets kicked out of school and then sent back to Elk
Shipped
Ridge.
back to Elk Ridge. My next note is that Pete's aunt can get it. I believe I also texted you this. She's very cute. It was just like, I was just noticing that they clearly had like 30 feet of alley to work with, so they were like, run, run.
Oh, the cop car pulls, and then they got to turn around and run
Well,
back. But
yeah,
they're
they're
like, not too
so
fast, not too
leisurely
fast.
running away. Yeah, and then they're so leisurely running the other day.
The entire arrest takes place in like I forget what you call it. I believe it is called a is it a J cut where the audio continue the audio if you have like the two video and audio tracks, the audio continues but we morph to the video of a different scene. You've seen it a
Oh,
thousand
okay.
times. But it's like, I mean, it's literally like you hear clearly somebody in a microphone going, "That's it, you boys are under arrest," and like Foleyed, like the click of
Click, click,
handcuffs,
click.
handcuffs as we slowly morph
Let's see
back
you
to
try to get out of these, boys. So we cut back to Elk Ridge, and we see another spectacular actor in the thing, which is the coach, who is bafflingly coaching baseball, giving the same two lines of coaching advice, which is like was like, "Come on, hustle and wait for the ball." That's all he says.
let the
Like,
ball come to let the
or
ball
let the
come to
ball come
you.
to you. Let the ball come to you. That's what he was saying. Which not bad advice, but also all he says. But the actor, delightful. He's like he's got energy. He seems like a thing, but he's the priest, pastor, minister. I think they call him. He's a minister. He's wearing again a button-up shirt and a priest collar. And in a later scene, when he's standing at the pulpit, actually preaching, he's not wearing a collar. He's wearing a regular tie. What are we doing here?
I that made me so mad. Like I texted you that when I first saw it. I was like, what is going on? You know, there are Christian denominations besides Catholic that do wear the priest collar, and it's like just a thing when you're like administering your office.
Why would
Why
you
is it?
not wear it while you're preaching?
Could they? Was it a rent? Like, was it a rental costume, and they only had it for the one day of him? They shot all the stuff at the baseball, all the like him and the kids at the baseball field, and that's all they did. But yeah, ugh.
I bet they shot this movie in the order that they made the thing. It has such that energy where they're like, yeah, we've got the kids for like the middle 2/3 of the movie, and
Well,
yeah,
assuming they didn't violate labor laws, that's also tricky because the kids can only work for like 4 or 5 hours. Like,
these are all one. Most of the kid. I looked at the like their what are they called? The Buttercream ets. The little girls' names. There's like four last names and like 12 actors. These kids are the children of people in the production.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, no,
sure
absolutely.
what's his sorry Michael Weatherhead, the kid who played Pete, had done acting for several years before this. I kind of figure he was like probably a friend, then was doing this movie as a favor or just got to be one of the main characters.
I can definitely see how a script like this would be something that you might agree to on the broad strokes before you actually like see it. I mean, especially if he's sort of a star. You know, he's pretty young in that.
Okay, back to my notes. So there's baseball there's a huge like 10-15 minute aside where baseball has to be the most important thing that's happening. So we're preloading that. So the kids are all the Buttercream Gang and the boys are all playing baseball and being coached. And there's a scene and it said, "Too bad Pete's not here. He could really." Oh, Scott is like striking out or something, or like he strikes out. The coach gives him the same advice 3 times, and then he hits a home run. And he goes, "That's what you got to do. You just got to loosen up." And Lenny says, "Too bad Pete's not here. He could really loosen you up." And then Scott says he could really loosen all of us up. Okay, heated rivalry. Okay.
Oh my god!
Oh,
And
oh,
the way that Pete loosens people up is he quotes commercials. Like, and
is
it's
that
like
why I must have missed that thing because I was like, why do they keep saying "you got the right one, baby" in the worst, which is ancient history. It took me several times before I was like, wait, that's a is it a Pepsi or a Coke commercial
I don't know.
or something else?
I think it's a
Oh,
Pepsi
it
commercial.
is a
They talk.
commercial to something, but I think they can't say the thing, so they're just like, what about this one? Like, give me a break. Like, it's not even that one. It was two I recognized and then one I didn't, which was and they say it all the time. They go, "You got the right one, baby." Uh-huh. "You got the right one, baby." Uh-huh. Like that.
Yeah.
It's insufferable. You can do more than one take. You could be a little musical.
Surely
Um,
all of these Mormon people are in churches that have like singing.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe jazz is the devil, so they were but all and honestly, maybe they had to do it a little bit different. So it was not, hey, you can't just quote our like
Yeah,
copyrighted works.
they knew in that if they did it bad enough, then if Coke were to or whoever were to like sue them, that would bring attention to their production. You know, Streisand they would end up being Streisand effect or Pepsi or whoever would look bad by comparison to be like that was them. Like everyone's like the
It's
the jury is like I would never have known that was a Pepsi commercial if it weren't if the plaintiff were not Pepsi Cola Incorporated.
I cannot remember who it is, but there was someone talking. I think it's in Britain. It's hard to get away with written that's libel, right? It doesn't matter. But like
Yeah,
the way you are able to slander someone is you say like you go, "Donald Trump did all these crimes, embezzled all this money, and his dick was so small," and you can't fight it unless you agree that like it's whatever the crime is where you're saying something that you're not supposed to say is you just throw in and this dick was so small, like literally impossible to see because They have to like
he
legally
lies to
agree to all of it.
he lies through the entire State of the Union while completely nude or whatever. Whatever.
What, did you see his dick? I didn't. It was so small. Um. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh,
Pete comes back.
no, no, no. You missed a whole important scene, which
Oh
is
my
where
god.
they get to be.
We've been recording for
I know
40
this movie.
minutes.
It takes so long. This movie is not that long, and it took so long, and so much happens, which is, I think, to its credit. Like a lot of stuff happens, and it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel crazy. A small child runs up and goes, "Scott, Scott, the Widow Jenkins." Hilarious names stay winning. The Widow Jenkins fell down. I'm on the record as saying I love a hysterical name. The Widow Jenkins. The kid's got a girl. Again, I don't know how this small, very small child, like 7 years old, saw a woman fall in her house. She's no, she's like in a living room. So I'm
She's
like,
downstairs
okay,
because they can see her from one of the windows. But yeah, this old
yeah.
lady falls down, and the Buttercream Gang is to the rescue, and that's their thing. Which maybe
Hey
which
Eric, who? Tell us more about the Buttercream Gang and what the fuck's
so
up with them.
there's a whole boring scene. One of the other adult characters that gets a lot of screen time and who's sort of a decent actor is Mr. Graff, who is the like general store proprietor. You know,
Again, a
very
1925 ass looking general store.
just all these wooden shelves with like stuff piled in the center of the shelves, not even like to the edges or something, just
Yeah,
like
no
here's
facing, no.
16 cans of tuna. Anyway, they go in and miss the wisely old Mr. Graff. It's after the Widow Jenkins thing. They go to get groceries from her because she's fallen. Don't who cares about medical attention for possibly a serious injury? But yeah, we'll ignore all the other adults because she's like in a neighborhood, so it's not like the little girl could have just run next door and been like bang bang bang. She had to
They're
go
so
like
in love with bikes too. They when they race over, they're driving. They're riding bikes for several minutes in the movie, which has to be miles away. This little kid couldn't find anyone else. Had to run across town to the baseball diamond because apparently these boys are the only ones who can climb on, swing on a rope through the outside to get in. Anyway, they get money, go get groceries.
yeah, and the Mr. Graff then of course has to exposit at us for a minute, and he's like, "Did you boys know my grandfather was one of the first Buttercream Gang?" And he sets up
One of
sort
the
of
first
the whole
butter
thing.
creamers.
The Buttercreamers, yes, creaming with
They
the best of
say
them.
buttercreamer so many times.
So the story is that at an undisclosed period of time, but this movie in the 90s, this like 60-year-old man says his great grandfather, after a bunch of men were killed in a raid, whatever that means, the minister asked the teenage boys of the town to help the widows, basically. I assume the implication is they were all farmers. The women then had to go and like do the farming, and then the boys were, one of the things that they did was do the churning. So they were the butter creamers. And then it kind of, it's like I guess things sort of the new normal balanced out, but then the boys it continued to be like a tradition that the boys of the town would just be helpful. And you see lots of scenes of it throughout the movie. They're picking up trash on the side of the highway, they're helping people with groceries, they're mowing lawns of the old people.
They're doing all these works, and Pete comes back. They go to one of their.
Pete's grandpa's
Isn't that
house.
where they go to Pete's grandma's house? They knock on the door. When she immediately doesn't answer, they just open the door. They open the door and then start going, "Are you home? Are you home?" And you hear Pete's voice, and they go, "Oh my God, Pete's back."
The next scene is one of the few that I remember, like distinctly remember. They come in and he's sitting at a table with like peanut butter and bread and is like making a sandwich. And he's like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And they're like, "What the hell? You're back and you didn't tell us?" And then he's like weirdly dismissive about like talk. He doesn't want to talk about Chicago. And then he goes, "Hey, you guys hungry? Let's go get something to eat." And I remember being like, "You're literally Like you don't even have to walk to the fridge to get something to eat. It is like you have the makings of a sandwich in arm's reach right now. Make them a sandwich and talk about Chicago.
Lowest of
Anyway,
hanging fruits, grape jelly. Um, yeah, so the half-assed dialogue with Timu Burt Reynolds.
oh yeah. So you have to talk about him stealing stuff, so you know why Scott is like suspicious.
No, that's why he goes and talks to them,
Yeah.
yeah. So the Pete and the boys go to Mr. They go to Graf's general store. They meet someone and Pete walks up to this man and like takes his hand and takes his shoulder and goes, "Hi, Mr. Turner, remember me?" And I was just sitting there like, Pete's been gone for like maybe a year. I feel like it hasn't even been a year.
I got the implication that he left in the fall ish or something because he got kicked out of school, which means school was still in session. And in the time between when Pete comes back and the end of the movie, someone makes a reference to school is almost done. So yeah, not even a full calendar year. It's like, how old do you think Mr. Graff is?
And so they go in there and they're buying stuff. It's just a bizarre thing where Pete keeps like making plans and like dictates like, okay, you go get the drink. And like, there's like two aisles to the store. He goes, you go get the drinks, you go get the food. I'm gonna talk to Mr. Graff. And they're like, okay, and they walk like 4 feet in one direction.
Like, got him.
Um,
These right here? Gotcha.
Good job. I'm glad we divided and conquered. And while they're doing that, he goes to the back and then he leaves and says, "Oh, you didn't have what I was looking for." And outside, he like pulls out of his pants in the most shoplifting of ways some treats and hands them to the boys.
Five
Which
feet
again,
from
they
the
were like,
door.
yeah,
5 feet
yeah,
from the door,
right
too.
outside of the door. You can hear the wrappers as he's pulling them out. And Scott goes, there's an interesting thing where Scott has now become suspicious of Pete and is like, that felt like he was stealing. And he goes and talks to his dad, Timu Burt Reynolds, and crushed it. I'm glad I wrote that joke a couple days ago. He talks to his dad, Timu Burt Reynolds, and his dad is straight up like, "Are you like Pete looks super different and he was acting different?" And he goes, "Are you judging Pete on the way he's looking?" And I'm like, grade
Hey,
A parenting. Like your kids are living in a fucking bubble, but like you're sitting there, he's doing. I feel like the dad does a pretty good job most of the time. He goes
oh, I
like,
disagree. I
"Oh, did I? I might be forgetting something."
the moral confusion of this movie comes from the dad who uh we'll get to the dad
Okay, sure.
by the end of the movie
Not,
he is
I think that first point got me a big get like was grade A because yeah, Pete's wearing the most insane gangster clothes. That is something that you would laugh if even if a period like Jet from West Side Story was wearing that, you'd be like, that's a little much. And his dad is like, "Are you judging him from the way he looks?" And he goes, "No. Did you see him actually steal the treats?" This is why I've got a better sense of him doing a good job. He's like, "Did you steal the treats? Did you see him steal them?" He's, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Well, I think you should talk to him about it because he's your friend. Like, but if he's
yeah,
done
no,
something wrong, you should tell
that's
them."
that scene like totally fine. Like, yeah, no, it's like a good, hey, don't you're friends. I know, maybe it's a little weird because he's been gone for a while and he like wasn't writing you as much towards the end. But yeah, just don't judge a book by its cover. All of these great lessons completely blown apart because Scott, of course, is right. Pete is trouble. He has seriously changed and he did steal the treats. So it's like, okay, so I should have gone with my first instinct, not listen to you, Dad, I guess.
And then the literal next scene, Scott goes into his bedroom, sits down in the pitch black for several seconds before turning on the light, and there's oh, it's not actually dark enough, this doesn't work, but there's a, hi there, Scott, and Pete is laying down on his bed, which these boys are in love, and they just need to kiss. Which again, he knows that Scott is suspicious of him, or he spied on him, who knows, and he goes, "I did forget to pay for those, but don't worry, I'll sort it out with Mr. Graff tomorrow." Which, again, bafflingly, he immediately believes him.
Yeah, how is he so suspicious of his friend of somebody who he's supposedly been friends with for years, and then when the suspicious thief character goes, "Don't worry, I'm definitely gonna pay him back tomorrow." He's like, "Yeah, okay, cool, buddy. Problem
And the
solved."
books could kill. Someone was like, when the lying liar tells you something that appears to be a lie, why are you giving this credit? Why are you giving this credence? Or someone who for whom every accusation turns out to not just be true, but much worse than you thought. There, we cut to some montage, and it's Pete bringing his Windy City corruption to Elk Ridge, which is he thirstily chases these two boys who like gently jostle someone, like kind of like, hey, 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 and Pete goes, ah, and like
Gang.
skips after them.
Do they jostle someone else? I thought they just jostled each other, but then just yeah, the way he tracks them, he's like they're pushing each other. Clearly, they'll be interested in crime. Oh
They
my
did
god.
both. They kind of like ping ponged someone between them for a second, and then they were yeah, it was this thing. I think one of the boy actors, I feel like I watched him in every scene. He does like the same, like two-handed push move into his buddy's arm every single time they're like in motion. Again, like, love to see someone at the beginning of their acting journey. That came out way
Right.
bitchier than I intended. I genuinely was like, you're doing fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
Um,
But yeah, then the crime montage was so funny because it's the most basic things ever until the very like did you write down any of the stuff they did? Because I was just like,
I did. I
the
wrote. Let's see. So I was thinking, I was like, oh gosh, this is so pathetic. Until it turns into actually some pretty bad things. They go. They annex the seesaw. It's like these two boys walk up and they so gently pick up these two little kids that are on the seaside, and you hear the ADR of "Hey!" And then they sit gently seesawing on the seesaw. They're not even like. They're not even like. Yeah. They're just like
or like
move the
slamming
kids gently
like
to the side.
come here.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
Okay, little
Those kids would be
McKaylee.
trying to those kids would be trying to crush each other's balls with the seesaw.
Especially added by the fact that as the shot kind of continues to move over, there's an empty seesaw literally right next to
Yeah.
them.
So they annex the seesaws. They like you see them doing stuff, but and something about this scene was I think you could hear other people talking and you just sort of see them come up and they're talking to this person and the person like is like reacting to the stuff they're saying and then like just kind of walks away. I was like, that's the most quiet bullying I've ever, which again can happen. Seen it happen before. They're jostling people in the hallway between I think every real crime. They steal a bunch of fruit from a like the amount of fruit that was on the ground was that as an abandoned orchard. I drive by one of these orchards.
Yeah, they like had their
Like
shirts out filled with up, and as they go away. It's like this is not crime. This is shenanigans at best. Like
yeah, like there's 700 pairs and they have 20 pairs. What the fuck are they gonna do with 20 pairs? I'm
yeah,
gonna eat so many pairs, bro.
so much fiber. They're like throwing them at each other. Yeah, there's just this whole campaign of thing until they literally do arson. Like I was just like, I can't believe they
What did
did
they
that
burn? Didn't they burn a vehicle? Like, I mean, it wasn't like a
it was
car
it was
parked
a
on a.
trash can. It was like
Okay.
a metal wire trash can. But I'm just like we grew up in that kind in
I will say
southern
that I was
Idaho.
gonna say this. I'm like, I don't think that's a big deal. And I was like, we grew up in the desert, and like that's really dangerous. Like massive brush fires start every year, and it always is like some dumb kids are setting something on fire. If this is Indiana, it's fine. They're burning a trash can in a junk field. It's not that big of a deal, but
It was like, oh, but it was definitely a step up from some of their other shenanigans. Later, they interrupt a dance by throwing a single firecracker.
the tiniest little. It looks like a baby joint or something,
Yeah, it's
and
half of a bottle
it
rocket.
sounds like a howitzer goes off. But then everyone just kind of like turns, like people aren't like, oh my god.
Yeah, nobody hits the deck or something. I mean,
I feel like they show it land like next to like Margaret's foot that's in a Mary Jane. Like that would have at least hurt. Certainly like been scary as I would have screamed, but everyone's just kind of like, oh.
Oh.
We see all this. We haven't talked about Margaret, and we don't really need to. There's this girl who is clearly the future trad wife of Scott. Oh, she's written a oh, because I wrote earlier in here. The only people of color in this movie are this girl Margaret is writing a report
Inner city
on inner
gangs.
city gang violence and has a picture and it's a bunch of black people like all up against a wall handcuffed.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's
Like
it's
that's
like a photocopy like of a newspaper article or something, and you're like,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Scott goes to her after seeing all of this. Scott goes to her and asks if he can borrow her. Again, they're in middle school because they're talking about it being their last year of middle school.
Yeah. So that means
Um,
they're
they're
13.
what, 13?
Yeah, 13, maybe 14.
13 or 14. Scott goes and gets her like 3-page report on inner city gangs because I guess there's no one else you can talk to. What information this is going to give him about Scott is crazy. Um, but she
This
goes,
actually
okay,
this
I'll
actually
give you a
happened.
report.
This actually like her get he got that report apropos of nothing Pete had done except maybe having because wasn't he reading the report when his dad came back and was talking about the
Again, there's so many things seem to happen in this wildly short movie that, like, yeah, it's like he gets the report, then he talks to his dad about it, then he talks to Margaret about it, and then she comes back to, I think that's when she recruits the little girls to come watch Pete. That's part of the montage is all these little girls who say like, "We'll be the Buttercreamettes." It's way too long of a scene for yeah, the kids have just been watching Pete and his gang do all this bad stuff.
so and it's wild that that having read a report about the dangers of inner city gangs, everybody's first because Scott's dad is also like, if you think Pete is in a gang, you got to be careful because those are dangerous. And so, of course, what is the next scene is let's send these 6 and 7 year olds to go follow the
They're
potentially
so
dangerous.
little.
They're so small.
They're all wearing Little House on the Prairie ass dresses, and they're standing in cornfields just watching them. It's so funny.
We must report to the hive mind. Pete
It's
did a
very
naughty.
children of literally children in the corn. So Margaret comes to the treehouse and says and delivers the report of, "Hey, the Buttercreamettes saw all this shit happening," which I guess we all kind of saw because it was all happening in the public. Pete and his new gang are being really bad, and Scott goes, "Okay, I shall take part." And you really liked this scene, didn't you?
Yeah, well, is this the scene or is it a different scene where they're frustrated that Pete isn't helping?
That's how the scene starts, and then Margaret walks into the scene.
Yeah, so part of the montage is Pete hanging out with the Buttercream Gang, and at various points they're like going to do something, and we've sort of seen this behavior from Pete before. And it's like as soon as it's time to like do something helpful and like to do some work and stuff, Pete is like, "Hey guys, I gotta go," and it's all montage. It's very sort of overdone and stuff, but he keeps going. So he keeps like leaving when it's time. He'll hang out and josh around and have fun, but then they're like, "No, we gotta. Sorry guys, I gotta go." And then the scene starts out with them being like, "He's got to do something or he's out." Right, because it's in this scene. Because in the next scene is where Scott tries to make it a big confrontation, and Pete's just like, "Okay, I'm done." But yeah, so Margaret comes to with the report, and then says she wants Scott to come to the dance with her.
Take
Which
her to the dance specifically, which is so awkward.
it's it's so weird because Margaret is set up with actually sort of a funny recurring joke at the beginning where in the space of like 5 minutes, there's two different scenes where Scott like runs into her and something falls down, and he goes, "Sorry, Margaret, I didn't see you there." And she's like, "What am I, invisible?" And so it's like, oh, I see what they're setting up wants the boy to notice her, sort of a thing. But then she just goes, "All right, buttercreamettes, my spine, fly, my little birds, go get me this stuff." And then she shows up with this.
Fly, my little birds, you come with me to the dance. I'm gonna take my glasses off now. She does it herself, which is surprisingly woman forward for this movie made by people who are almost definitely fascists or dead.
Yes. Today they are either fascists or dead. And I mean, I mostly liked this scene because again, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where did this Margaret come from? And she's like, yeah, pick me up at 7 o'clock and don't be late. And she doesn't wait for confirmation. She turns and goes, and we're like, yes.
She's telling. Margaret's telling. I'm a Margaret stan.
And Scott goes to like shout after her or something, and one of the boys turns to her. It genuinely made me laugh. She goes, "Hey, pick her up at 7 o'clock and don't be late." And so then Scott like is like, "Okay, gotta go," and he exits or goes to do. Oh, he's doing his paper route or something, which weirdly done in the middle of the afternoon every time. Like, what the hell? I thought paper routes were at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's my memory of them. But then he goes and Margaret is being bullied by Pete in his yeah, just a very menacing scene where we see her walking
It was
away.
genuinely scary. I was like, this is good. This is dramatic. Like they look like they're going to fight her or hurt her.
Yeah, and but in the she walks away and then they like emerge from the brush and they're like hey 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 hey. Which again they're like legitimately scary, which is a change from every time Pete goes to steal stuff. Like him and his buddies are like outside of Graf's store, and they are like literally have they are like hunched over, and he like walks into the store, literally rubbing his hands together, like, all right, time to steal. But in the next scene, Scott is starting his paper route, and he sees like down a little dirt path Margaret being bullied, I guess, which is the three boys riding around her in a circle on their bikes. And
again, this scene suddenly gets really good right there, yeah, because they're not just saying the same line. They're like yelling at her. They're like, you think you're gonna get into our business? You think you know what you're up to? You don't know anything, and if you know what's good for you, like just this nonstop. And that's one of the instances of Michael Weatherford like being a really like I'm sure they just said just yell at her, and he's like got a good like repertoire, like a speed going. He's like doing his Italian thing.
He's got you understand, like he's not doing this because he's on a bike, but he's like you
understand, crashes his bike.
You understand, oh god.
Not me.
Honestly, the camera work in that scene is pretty good. They've got they have
they're like zooming in on her while the bikes are like driving behind her and in front of the camera.
I'm pretty sure
Great.
they have the camera rotating around her when it's looking at her from the outside of the circle, and then it's following the boy, and so she's like turning clockwise, and they're going counterclockwise. And then when it switches to be on the inside, it's following them. So there's like this chaos in the cinematography, and it's like oh my god, like
yeah, where did this good scene come from this movie?
Yeah, they're like, okay, we have Michael on these days. We need to get the good cinematographer in. We can't afford him for the full however long this took to shoot. We need him for the specific days where we've got the good actor. And then Scott comes in on his bike and plows into one of them, and they fall and hit the ground really hard. And I'm like, whoa!
Yeah, it's like a violent crash. It's not just a whoa.
And again, this scene continuing to be great. Scott starts laying into Pete, which is all the more impressive because the dialogue is so neutered. I mean, he literally at one point is like, maybe you should look up friend in the dictionary with a bite and venom behind it, where I was like, ouch.
Yeah, like, yeah, he's saying like it's rated G. Like they would be swearing in any real situation, and they're not, and it's still actually really good. It's like you should look up friend in the dictionary. And Pete goes, goes, "You're gonna ruin our friendship over some dumb girl?" And he goes, "No, you are." And I'm like,
That's so good.
hello. He's
Yeah,
like, "No, I'm not the one making this choice right here." And I will say one more thing. We're gonna take a break in a second because this is gonna be a two-parter. But I think Pete withdrawing them from violence. So you were saying earlier that that you thought it very strange that Pete was always the one to back down from the violence, which could be true, but I think it's Pete still caring about Scott because he's in love with him. No, but I think it's him caring for Scott and not like being like, no, the three of us can beat him up. And they actually do at one
they
point.
do at one point.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I think it's him trying to protect Scott or not wanting to actually bring them into conflict. Maybe because he's trying to get him into the gang, which is weird that never comes up. He never like tries to get them to like be bastards with him.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get into it in the next episode, the part two of this, because it gets in something that sort of comes up at the end for no reason, that Pete's like, I hate myself, or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really explained. Like, is this a more deep seated thing, or is this specifically because he like fucked up and like his behavior in Chicago was like, oh no, I fucked up when I was finally outside of my little bubble,
I forgot
or
how
something.
good that scene was. That was real. Like it was a little bit illogical, but it was a very emotionally good scene.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So boy, we have so much still to cover. We have the dance. We
I
have the.
can't believe how much is in this movie. It's like did they know they had one shot and they like combined several scripts or something?
I don't know. Maybe for next time we can do some more research about, like, was this a book series or what? I kind of feel like there's no
Well,
way
there's a
that
second
this.
movie. Was there a TV show?
I doubt it. They were this company was very specific about marketing stuff over like phone call VHS sales, which I feel like movies is the way to do it. They didn't, but which I don't know. There might be some film distribution reason for why that is, but yeah, there's a dance. There is the baseball tournament. There is the whole turn the other cheek montage. There is the
That
dads in.
montage is so long. Oh my God, the Vietnam story. We're like 49 minutes into this.
I don't even think we're that far
Oh my
because
God. But yeah, we're gonna do the rest. We're gonna do the rest of this in part two, which will be our next episode.
yeah. In the meantime, because God, this is gonna be our longest episode ever, and it's a two-parter.
And it's a two-part.
So you can follow us on the socials, of course. The YouTube channel where the podcast is Talking to Tomatoes, or the Talking to Tomato uh, TikTok channel, as well as our individual TikToks. I am Eric.Eberly.
And I'm Titan of Joy on TikTok, and you can also find me on Blue Sky as Jubilee Titan of Joy.
All right. Talk to you later, buttercreamers and buttercreamettes, and whatever the non-binary version of buttercream.
Buttercream X.
Butter-